Hi everybody. We're going to look at other aspects of the Code of Ethics today. If you look in Clause 1 under the Code of Ethics, you'll see things surrounding gender, note-taking and record-keeping. I'm not going to focus too much on the gender issue. I think as Christians we have our thoughts about that. I think there's mixed feelings about that. Certainly Jesus did obviously minister to women, like the woman at the well. He was by himself, talking personal issues with her, obviously out in the open, not in closed doors. So I think we are aware of the potential problems, safety for a woman in particular, developing inappropriate romantic attachments, emotional dependency. Mind you, that's whether it's same gender counselling or not, that can happen. And it can be hard for someone to open up to the opposite sex. So rather than just making a general rule, I think it requires wisdom, guidelines around that, choosing a safe place and time where other people will be around, perhaps say at the church office as opposed to your home. Check in how the person feels about speaking to a person of the opposite sex about their issue. Co-counselling is a solution where they might agree for a person that they feel comfortable with to come in and sit in the room and be part of that counselling process as a safety feature. And of course, accountability as a counsellor, so that you're never caught out. A lot of these things can take on a power of their own, as we've all heard the horror stories within the church circles, when there's secrecy and silence. So if you are counselling someone of the opposite sex and you feel there's sexual innuendos happening, you bring that into the room and say, look, I feel like you are making sexual overtures here. I'm not comfortable with that. And deal with it from there. Bottom line is, we as the counsellors are responsible for the safety of the counselling situation, because we hold the power, whether we like it or not. We have the ultimate responsibility to ensure that there's safety. I have had to counsel men in the agencies I've worked in where there was no option. I've had to counsel male students. One man about my age did get violent and did make sexual overtures. So it's not always easy. So I'm just saying that things happen and we just need to be prepared. I would never have thought that would have happened to me. So I guess my personal preference, and it's just a preference, is to not have to counsel with the opposite sex. I think if I was, I'd make sure that the person was a lot younger than me. But as I say, that's a preference, and it just might be my own thing that I have to work through. I have had successful times with younger men, though. That sounds bad, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. Also, under safety in counselling, under the Code of Ethics, under Clause 1, we've got note-taking and record-keeping. Each of these books, Issues in Ethics, Counselling in the Law, they both have about 10 pages on each about the note-taking and record-keeping. Why do we take notes? Well, there are a couple of reasons. First of all, for us as biblical counsellors, is to love the counselee well. We can't pretend to remember everything that we hear and to forget important bits of information. It doesn't show good care, it doesn't show love. If we forget something major they've told us the week before, I don't think that's a good look. So first of all, we do it to care and love well for our counselees, not being reliant on our memories, but also there is a legal requirement. And, God forbid that any of us would be taken to court, but things do happen, and our notes would have to be used in court. So when you use your notes, I'll just backtrack a bit. Under confidentiality, when we're keeping notes, we need to think of safety of the notes. If you're using paper notes, you need to file them under lock and key. I put all my notes, I keep all my note taking digitally. I can add things by photographing them or scanning them. So I keep everything on a digital file. I use the OneNote. It's a good filing system, and I can password lock every separate client tab. When you are note taking, again, ask permission. Explain why you're taking notes. People who have had, a criminal past or encounters with the police might be a bit nervous to think, well, why are you taking notes? So don't assume that they know why you're taking the notes. Explain. Also, be prepared that some clients, when they leave you, might want to take their notes with them. So very important, as you're writing your notes, always think, my counsellor could ask to look at these. So it's good to not do any opinions. It's just good to stick to the facts, because you just need the facts to help you remember. You could say that my client was angered today, or showed remorse today, or seemed depressed today, or was sobbing today when she told me about. So, because that's sort of like a fact of what happened. So I keep notes on letters sent to me, phone calls, any reports, any diagrams they might have drawn. I keep a record of everything. There's differing views about how long you need to keep your records for. I know with my husband's accounting practice, he legally has to keep everything for 7 years. So there are different views around how long to keep things, but generally 7 years. I'll just see if there's anything else. So safety is really important for confidentiality, that no prying eyes can see what you've written. If your home is broken into and your computer stolen, you don't want anyone being able to look at those files. So note-taking. When I started, when I was in my training, I was so nervous, I wrote down every word. And we had to video our sessions, so of course I would go to my supervisor and all she would see was this. And he was the counselor trying to talk to me, and I was giving them no eye contact, just so nervously writing everything down in case I forgot anything. So I think note-taking and knowing what notes to take does come with confidence. I probably hardly take any notes in the session right now. That's I'd say 80% of the time. If it's a new person and we're going through their PDI, I take a lot of notes. But what I do is, as soon as people have left, I immediately write down how the session went. I write down all the information so that it's not lost. Anyway, I'm going to put a few things up for you to read on that, about the gender issue, the pros and the cons, note-taking and record keeping, just to say they are highly recommended to do that, even in an informal setting, and lock and key for confidentiality. Thank you.